Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everyone. If I were to title this podcast, it would be Let It Go. And that song from the movie Frozen from back in the day, let it go, just rings so true here. The things that we hold on to, no matter what they are, the personal agreements that we make within ourselves are holding us back, and we don't realize it. We need to let it go. What are these things? How do we do that? Let's learn about that today. He is the chief coach and president at Masternomics, helps people navigate these things through many different programs, coaching, and that comes in many different forms as well. Group, individual, personal, professional. Martin Glin joins us today on the program. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm feeling good, excited. Happy to be back on the program and discussing some things that can help us all shift to a higher level of existence. So yeah.
And thank you for being here, making us aware of these things that we hold on to, and we're going to get to what those things are in a moment. Mm-hmm. But they truly do hold us back. It's almost, the cliche, one door, you got to let that go before you can open the door to this over here. Yes. And I guess it also comes down to making change, wherein lies fear. We're afraid to do that. But let's go back to the beginning. What are these personal obligations we make, these agreements in our mind that we make, that we hold on to, that invariably hold us back? What are some of those things?
Yeah, it's for all of us, it's actually very simple. But there's a saying, common sense is most uncommon. And so it's really right in front of our eyes. So when we're using this term agreement, so we all have made agreements. So our life, the amount of money we make, our partners, whether it's, love or just a friendship, the house we live in, the car we drive, is all based on an agreement that we have made. And the agreement, so agreements are mental agreements. It's kind of like the job you're working at. If somebody's making $20 an hour, nobody came and snatched you out of the house and said, you're just going to work for $20 an hour. You made an agreement. So before you signed the physical contract, you mentally made the agreement and accepted that amount of $20 an hour. So when we're saying an agreement, these are things that we accept. And unfortunately, some of us accept things that make us feel comfortable and hurt us and give us depression, but we have subconsciously accepted them and agreed to them. So when we're saying agreement, these are things that we have accepted. And so when we look at, let's case in point, you're making X amount of dollars at your job, and you've been there for 5 years or whatnot, and you want to raise. So, the dollar amount you're making is based on the agreement. But the real agreement is what you agree with yourself. You just said originally, I'm only worth $20 an hour. And that happened to you inside. And it was something that made you feel good at the time. But now, guess what? Things have changed. So you have to shift your agreement in your head, your worth, your value, and that's based on you. That's based on us. And so we have to change our lives. We have to look at what we have agreed, the agreements that we have made. So if you're in a bad relationship, unfortunately, you made the agreement for that relationship.
Yep.
And so these agreements that we make are controlling our lives, and we have to learn how to analyze and see what agreement did I make that's getting me these bad results.
Painful to accept what you just said.
Yeah.
And many of us will point the finger in other directions. I got to work this weekend. Yeah, I can't believe I thought I was going to have it free. Now I had to work. Well, ultimately, and there's many, many variables here, but ultimately you agreed to that.
Yes.
Because when you took the job, you could have said, I don't work weekends. I'm sorry. An employer will either say, that's fine. We won't make you do that. Or they're going to say, there may be a few that you might have to, whatever the situation may be. But ultimately, we have free will. We have freedom of choice, essentially in everything. Everything. What we're going to do in 5 seconds from right now, we made that choice. 5 minutes from right now, you really made that choice. Yes, things come up, but you choose how you react to them. So everything's a choice.
Right. And so one agreement that a lot of us make is, I want other people to feel happy in order for me to feel happy. And even in a work scenario, right? Sometimes we agree to things that once we're agreeing to it, it makes us feel uncomfortable. But we've made an agreement that it's more important for that other person to feel happy as opposed to myself. And those are people pleasers.
Yep.
And so people pleasers usually self-sabotage, beat themselves up, and they're so worried about everyone else as opposed to themselves. And that leads to depression, anxiety, and a whole host of other things. But it's just a mental agreement. And so if you have to shift what the agreements that we've made and say, you know what? It's about me first. My happiness should be first, because at the end of the day, if I'm trying to please you, I'm never going to be able to truly please you because I'm not in your head. But I can control my emotions and what makes me happy. And these agreements, they affect us in every aspect of life.
Wow. Yeah, the people-pleasing thing is big.
Yeah.
But we don't realize we're doing it. Right. It's in my mind here, Martin, I see a couple of different things. And I love what you said, mental agreement, the mental agreement. There are some mental agreements that you knowingly make, and then the other ones you don't. So the people-pleasing thing, that could be a mental agreement you made within your mind that you adhere to, but you don't know you're doing it. For example, I got to make sure other people are happy before I'm happy. I got to make sure they are, because, ultimately that increases my value, my self-worth, all of that. Right. But, because of things from your past, your childhood, which you've talked about before, how that dictates your adult life, you might not even know you're doing it.
That's right. Yeah. And that's because we're controlled mostly by our subconscious thoughts.
Yeah.
Our subconscious controls 70 to 90% of our thinking. So what happens is we become attached to our past and our past experiences. And so because we're attached to that, we approach every relationship, every situation with that same attachment to the tragedy that happened to us. And that could have been getting fired. That could have been making my boss mad. That could have been making my wife mad, my husband mad, whatever. We become attached to those bad situations. And what happens is it's a mental autopilot that has us just moving and doing things based off of our past experiences as opposed to having new ones. And so that's why it's an agreement, and then that agreement becomes attached to you. And the harder you focus on, in most cases, it's a fear thing, then the more attached you become to the situation, and your life becomes worse and worse. You get more of the same, more of what you really don't like, and we don't know why we're experiencing it.
You asked for it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's hard to face it, but you got to face it.
Yeah.
So how do we do this? There, these mental agreements, whether we're aware or not, what's the plan? Is it taking stock? Is it speaking with somebody like you that may be able to uncover those things in us?
Yeah, it's both. But what we have to do is we have to challenge ourselves. So we first have to observe our emotions and our habits and the things that have us feeling stuck. We have to observe our guilt. We have to observe our depression. And then we have to, self-analyze and say, why am I feeling depressed? And then once we start doing that, our wheels start spinning. We start using our creative ability that we all have, right? And it will become uncomfortable because it's a feeling and you're you're like, wow, when I'm around this person, I just feel bad. And so but what you're starting to do is you're starting to use your ability to hone in on the problem. Now, of course, mentors, coaches, somebody like myself will help you because we help you pinpoint and identify what exactly is the problem. Because most of the times in society, we address symptoms as opposed to the actual problem. But to fix yourself, you got to go to the actual source and not the symptom, because depression is a symptom, but there's a cause. And we know everything is cause and effect. So, but it starts with you taking time and just analyzing the things that you're not happy about, analyzing the things that make you feel stuck, right? Really analyze and say, why do I feel like this? And help and knowledge comes by questions. How, why, when, where? When we start to ask questions, we start to shift. See, our problem is we have been domesticated. We've been programmed by other people throughout our whole lives. And what we've been doing is receiving information, but we have not been asking questions. And so when you think about successful people in any aspect, spiritually, physically, whatever, they always ask questions. The questions that you're asking are really you're asking yourself, because you're the one that's accepting everything. So if you're in a bad relationship, you should ask yourself, do I have to be in this relationship? And you already know the answer is no. Bad relationship can be personal, it can be business, you know. So we asking questions helps to shift you, and you start to get your power back.
That's beautifully said. Got to be honest with you, because we don't do it.
Yeah.
I think mostly because we're afraid to do it. We're afraid to confront ourselves. And many times, I'm sure you are the mirror in a tactful, loving way for us to see. But when you question, why am I hanging out with that person? Mm-hmm. They want to hang out this weekend. I'll go hypothetical here. Yeah, I guess I'll go. I really don't want to.
Right.
Why do I feel compelled?
Right.
I want to know that they're still there when I need them. They may enjoy hanging out with me. I really don't enjoy hanging out with them. But why? Do you feel that it's important and or very important to write it down so you have it in front of you?
Yeah, it's very, very important. It is hard for people to do at first. But the reason why writing it down helps so much is because you're getting it out of your head and it's jumbled, and then it's on paper and you see it. So it's like you see, okay, this is the actual result of the agreements that I have made. You can see it. And then you know what you're going to feel? A lot of times you're going to feel stupid, because you're going to say, why in the world would I accept this? Would I tell my daughter or son to accept this? Would I tell my best friend to accept this bad behavior? Yep. You're accepting the bad behavior or the bad relationship. And so, writing it down is very, very important.
And as you said earlier, and I firmly believe it, you know the answer already.
Yeah.
You know it. And even when you go layers deeper, like when you said, ask yourself, what do I need to be in this relationship? Mm-hmm. And you said no. You know the answer is no. And if you start going deeper or get in the habit of doing that, then you get the other answers. Well, why am I in this relationship?
Right.
And maybe that goes back to your upbringing. And maybe your parents got divorced, and now you have a feeling of abandonment. So now you're afraid. I don't want to let this person go because I need somebody in my life. I got to have them there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you don't want to feel alone, because you feel that those feelings of abandonment, from the past. And it's really comes just to soul searching, but we all know the answer.
Right. Yeah. And that's why self-talk is very good. We think about it when we were growing up, or we were always taught, when we would see, you walk down the street and you see somebody talking to themselves, and your mom or whatever might have been like, that's crazy. You don't do that. He's loony. But the reality is self-talk is very good. It's so good, and it's therapeutic. We as people, we really don't spend time alone, right? We're either working, we're doing something, or or we're being controlled by social media and we're doing this death stroke. We're just, and so we're never getting an alone time. And so when you spend, it's self-care, when you spend time to yourself, a simple walk in the park. And if you live in a city and there's no parks, just standing outside, sitting on the stoop or porch or wherever you live and feeling the breeze, and your mind starts to think. And then you ask questions, right? We will say, well, I'm asking God a question. But what you're really doing is just putting the question in the universe. Because guess what? You get to answer the questions. You have all of the power to answer the questions. And so when you talk to yourself and you analyze what you don't like in life, and that could be that relationship that you could say, why do I take this abuse? Why? And when you start to ask yourself these questions, you start to self-communicate, you will give yourself the answers. The reality is, if you messed it up, that's good because you can fix it. Because you are the one that made that, accepted it, and you are the one that made that agreement. But guess what? You could tear the contract up. And so to move to the next level, if once you identify these bad relationships or that are based on bad agreements, just tear the contract up. You have that power. It's like what you mentioned is that, we've accepted, some people accept, well, my parents was married for 30, 40, 50 years. So I'm in this bad relationship and I'm just, I've already made the agreement that no matter what happens, I'm going to accept it. But you become this most abused person in life. But that's based on the agreement that you made, because guess what? Is that the purpose of life? Just to be attached to an abusive relationship? And is that good for your children? Who is this really benefiting? So all of those are questions that we can ask ourselves. And we have the power. And the primary force that stops us from shifting to the next level, from moving from one level to another, is fear. It's fear. And it's just like it says, false evidence appearing real. It's false because it doesn't exist. It's just a concept that you have accepted in your mind.
Yep.
And then it starts to harden. But it is a belief that is really not real. But your attachment to that fear is controlling your life.
You've said a word, and we're going through my mind, and then you said the word, then you said the word again, power. Mm-hmm. We don't realize that we are in a place of power.
Yes.
So those personal agreements, whatever is going on in your mind, you have the power to make the change. You're in a really strong position. I don't think we realize that.
Right.
And talking about, let's say, a relationship you're in that doesn't support you. I'm going to factor out abuse because that's something very much different. But let's say it's just you're not feeling this relationship.
Right.
It could be one of 20 years, whatever.
Right.
You have the power to make the change. Maybe that doesn't mean to end the relationship, but you have the power to evaluate it with the other person and work on it and or not.
Right.
I think we all get in that place of being stuck, feeling a victim. I can't do anything about it. That's the way they are. No, you can. You're in a place, you're in a great position. I don't think we realize that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, we don't. And it's because, think about it, you get more of what you focus on. Right. So what happens is, we're in a stuck situation, and it could be anything, right? It could be whatever has you feeling stuck. The problem is stuck means stuck. You're stuck because your mind and your mental pictures and imagery is only focusing on this bad situation. So therefore there's no movement. And so the way to shift is we've got to get a picture, a vision of something that is better, right? And like you said, it doesn't mean in a relationship, whether it's business or personal, it doesn't mean it has to end. It means we have to reevaluate it. And in all the relationships that we have, right, all the agreements that we have to reevaluate those agreements.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean it just has to, you obliterate. It's just, it's reevaluation. It's right. Like me being a parent, I have a relationship with a 3-year-old, but the 3-year-old turns to a 7-year-old. And as we constantly reevaluating this, right, the way I relate to them, to the child changes, and that's how life has to be.
That's a great point you bring up, that the agreement can change. In legal agreements, kind of, they're ironclad. You signed an agreement. How do you go back to court? Yeah, whatever the agreement is. But when it's the personal agreement, we can tweak it.
Right. Let's make an amendment.
Yes. Yes, exactly. It's like you said, we don't have to blow the whole agreement up. And I guess that goes back to the relationship situation where take a look at this. What can change in that agreement? Let's say you made an agreement with yourself with somebody, and they work a lot, and now they're working even more, and you allowed that to happen by not saying anything, but it bothers you. Maybe one of your love languages is quality time. Maybe that's a top one, but you let that agreement happen. So it's time to amend the agreement, honey. You're working a lot. I don't get to see you. I need more quality time with you. There, you're amending the agreement. Now,
you're amending it.
If the other party is not on board, whatever it might be, this is just.
I might have to keep, re-emphasizing this, because it might be the first time that I mentioned it. Right. And then it's just, we have to revisit this.
And if they're, again, we're just using an example, but if they say no, I'm going to keep working, or whatever it might be. As you revisit the agreement, you may get to a point where you have to make a major revision, whatever that may be. Whatever that may be. Yeah. It's what I'm getting today from you, Martin, is we come from a place of power, and we give our power away to fear, to other people, or we give it away to the agreement that we made, not realizing that the agreement can change. So it's time to take a look at it and definitely write it down. I can't process stuff unless and the talk to yourself, as simple as it sounds, that's powerful. Driving in your car, check in with yourself. Steve, how you feeling? How you feeling about that situation? Tell me, almost as if you're having a conversation with yourself.
Yes. And that's what we have to do. Yeah. We have to take back the power and use what we have. We can control our thoughts, right? Every thought is not a good one, but if it's concentrated and it's based on what we want, it's going to help you. It's going to serve you.
And sometimes I'm going to call you the consultation. With you, you're not you're the legal counsel for our agreements. Because sometimes we can't figure out how to make that change, how to see it for what it is, and that's where you and a lot of your guidance and programs come in. How do we find you?
You can find Masternomics Media. It's on TikTok, Instagram, Masternomics on YouTube. Personally, email masternomics1@gmail.com. We'll drop the number. I forget the number, but you'll be able to get the number. You can call, you can email. We still do some personal consultation. It would depend, but we do a lot of, we work with companies as a whole, helping shift corporate structures and things of that nature. But we put out a lot of free information just to help you go to the next level.
Love it. So much clarity gained from today. Lots to think about. I'll be talking to you next time, but before then, I'll be talking to myself. And that's a good thing. All right, Martin. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind, like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind, like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama, like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.